Go. Good afternoon and welcome to the Hearthstone half hour for today. I'm Hammy, this is FailCraft Casts, hope you're well and good. And today, in our little lunchtime stream, it's episode 100, hooray! We've been streaming 100 Hearthstone half hour episodes and similar. Thank you so much to everyone. We'll do a special 100 milestone episode. We'll have a bit of a chat about things and what we've been up to and sort of what I've been up to and where we come from and where we'd like things to go. But enough of that. We are jumping today into a bit of a deck tech, deck science, deck experiment. It's kind of an intro, it's kind of a guide, but really we're just having an experiment with an idea around a deck. We are no masters. There are wise and wonderful players out there who are doing a lot more bleeding edge stuff, but we're going to try and break it down from a new perspective so you can get involved and demystify things a bit. So we're taking a look at, I've called it Naxxramas Enhanced Paladin. You could perhaps call it, I don't know, mid-range deck, an aggro deck. Welcome to Bellatrix, any of those you folks who are joining us for a little bit of chattage and similar, and anyone live as well. If you're on YouTube, welcome too. So, what are we talking about when we say Naxxramas Enhanced Paladin? Well, you've got aggro paladins that charge in with a whole bunch of early game cards, and then you've got sort of more mid-range ones that try and go for a bit of control. So the paladin, whether you're swinging early with aggro for the win or whether you're trying to sort of keep things in control into the mid-game, is understood. There are a couple of good examples. Reynad and a few other people have done, Reynad, have done a few nice examples. So what we're actually going to take a look at now is, with that sort of core idea of a paladin aggro deck or a mid-range paladin deck, there are some concepts that sort of roll over, but Naxxramas has added some new cards, and one of the ones that people have spotted and debated is the combo of Ooze. So let us grab an Echoing Ooze, and this is where I really hope that I've got the correct cards. So the Echoing Ooze, you see it in the Naxxramas class quest for Paladin, and a lot of people saw it and thought, ooh, wouldn't this go well with Paladin, myself included, or ooh, wouldn't this go well with buffs? So, does it really go well with buffs? That's the question that we're going to have a little play around with and see if we can answer. So there are two schools of thought. If you read the forums, if you go through all of the streamers, some of them say, oh, yep, that's absolutely amazing. Well, why is this card great with buffs in theory? Let's just take a quick look. It's not the core of the deck, but it complements it very, very nicely. So the battle cry of Echoing Ooze, summon an exact copy of this minion at the end of the turn. And that copy is exact. So if you buff this card, whatever stats it has, you'll get another Echoing Ooze with those exact same stats at the end of the turn. So how do you play this card best? Well, you need to throw it down and throw buffs on it, so that at the end of the turn it duplicates, and then suddenly there's double the threat, double the trouble. So it's turn 2. You can drop it, but really you want to drop it with other buffs. So that kind of makes it turn 3. And then the battle cry means that ideally you're throwing this down turn 3, 4, maybe with some cheap paladin buffs or cheap buffs from other decks. So Paladin people have looked at, well, if we take a look at Paladin, we can see why people have thought this would go well with Paladin. Blessing of Might, minion 3 attack, 1 mana, so turn 3. By the start of turn 4, I can have 2 5/2 minions, if I have 2 Blessing of Might, let's say, or 1 Blessing of Might. Divine Shields as well, that means that I can have bubbled oozes and all kinds of things going on there. So we know that Paladin, whether it's early game in that sense or maybe in the mid game with the larger Blessing of Kings, can bring the buffs to the ooze to suddenly create some big threats. It's not enough to pin a deck with on its own, but it can certainly complement decks that have buffs very, very nicely. So what we're going to do is take a little look at a Reynad style deck, and we're going to throw it into a few games as we always do, more on a new player Monday, to see exactly how it rolls out. So I'm not going to take any credit for this deck list because it's not mine, but what I will do is I think it's a fairly good example of a mid-range that we're going to take a look at, and then we can see how Ooze kind of complements it, and we can get around this thing of is the Ooze in this deck or sense good or not. So people saying good, well, we've kind of just explained how it works and why that could be good. The people who sort of say it's bad and go into the other camp, well, they make the argument that effectively two health minions no matter how much attack or things you put on them, can be relatively easily removed. So they're saying, well, this is not a game winner, not a game changer. It's not really meant to be, but it's a very solid reinforcement, potentially, depending on how you play it. So there are the kind of two schools of thought here. So let's take a look at what Reynad has done with the deck that he's played recently on stream. And then let's jump into a few games and let's see how it works out for us. And do always bear in mind that depending on where you're playing on the ladder, some decks can be more strong, some decks can be less strong. And then coupled with the fact that we're kind of brand new to this deck, we may make a few mistakes, but we can learn it together. So first up, we're going to go and grab some of the Paladin staples, things that you see making into the mid-range Paladin quite often. So we did a Kalento Din a week and a half or so back. You can go and have a look at that episode on youtube.com/FailCraft Casts. We'll open up with a couple of equality. So we're all unique special snowflakes with 1 health. Change the health of all minions to 1. Well, what does that team up with? Naturally, we'll go and take a look at Consecrate. So fairly obvious Paladin combo there. Marry up equality, change all minions' health to 1 with Consecrate, deal 2 damage to all enemies. That means you can do a board clear. Lots of decks compound that with 2 All-Door Peacekeeper. Well, there's a reason for the All-Door Peacekeeper. So if you then change an enemy minion's attack to 1, you can go and roll out with a card, for example, that is Stampeding Kodo. So destroy a random minion with 2 or less attack. So Paladin combos, you can equality into a Consecrate, you can All-Door Peacekeeper into a Kodo. Those are your ways of clearing off nasty cards from the table. Now obviously if you play them at the right time. So if there's only 1 Ragnaros on the table, 8/8, if you can throw down an All-Door Peacekeeper and a Kodo, then you remove that Ragnaros, for example. That's quite an expensive example. You could equality and Consecrate as well. So of these combos are Paladin control made. Right, now of course remember that we're also trying to do a little bit of aggressiveness, so Blessing of Kings, 2 of those drop in, for your other minions, but also for your oozes as well. Works well either way. We've got Consecrate, we're going to top up with a couple of True Silver Champs. Now, True Silver Champs, nice for the attack options, but there is another option here that people have tried and can try, and that is using the Sword of Justice. So the Sword of Justice, whenever you summon a minion, give it 1/1, and this loses 1 durability. That makes your ooze stronger, and then also means that you're generally making all of your minions more powerful. So you can kind of make a choice in this type of deck. You can either be going for True Silver Champs for the direct damage and healing, or you can consider the Sword of Justice. There's no reason why in our little experiments we can't try both. Guardian of Kings also drops in from the Paladin cards. If you're swinging with a True Silver Champion, you're going to take damage to your hero. You can drop Guardian of Kings in the late game to restore health. And also, of course, you can buff it with the other cards. Lay on Hands generally keeps you alive. And a lot of people go for a Tyrion if they're going mid-range. I do not have a Tyrion Fordring, so I will probably have to swap that for a Ragnaros or something similar. But Tyrion Fordring is a Paladin card. An excellent choice, generally, because if you look at him, he brings the Tyrion. He brings Divine Shield Taunt, then it equips that 5/3 Ashbringer, and the reason for his use in the mid-game Paladin is if you get him down, then suddenly that 5/3 Ashbringer, if you play against this deck, is generally what tends to bring you the pain in the late game. Tyrion goes down, that 5/3 weapon swings you to the face many times. So not great that we don't have a Tyrion, but we can then start reinforcing our deck in other ways. So we can take a look at this mid-range version, and if you wanted to go for a more aggressive early game version, you could drop in some Sword of Justice there and swap Tyrion for an earlier game finisher. So we've got the Echoing Ooze that we can of course buff and can duplicate themselves, the Haunted Creeper as well. This is a very Naxxramas enforced version. When it dies, 2 more spiders that you can of course buff for big damage. You can see the sort of early 2 mid-range, 2 Harvest Golem that we can also buff there. We already know how good they are in terms of 2-for-1 potential. So they are pretty awkward, and you can do some nastiness with those. Even if they just die and you don't buff them, they will remove some other cards from the table. And an interesting choice as well. These have been seeing a lot more play, the Shade of Naxxramas, just because they got stealth, and then they will grow and grow and grow and be nastier and nastier and nastier. And unless you can use some global damage on them. But the 1/1 means that if they stay alive for 1 turn, then suddenly they get away from a lot of the global damage. And I'm talking about things like Whirlwind, 1 damage to all minions, using the Wild Pyromancer. Consecrate that we're using in our Pally decks is another example of global, all over the table damage. There's damage that is to all enemies, there's damage that's to all enemy minions, there's damage that's to all minions on the table, there's damage to all cards. So when I say global, true global would just be to everything in play. But Certainly kinds of damage, untargeted damage, we say, damage that does to all something, will get past that stealth. Hockey dokie, so obviously we can see that shade. If we drop that, that's going to be doing damage. And then an interesting choice here, and I kind of like this from the old Defender of Argus, DOA, Dead on Arrival, very, very strong in fact. So that, if we're buffing up all of these minions, giving them tank and making them even stronger, absolutely brilliant, loving that choice. A really nasty choice here in the Sludge Belcher, and you can see we're actually stacking up quite a few tanks here that we can also buff and do nasty things with. And then Death Rattle, summon some more oozes as well. So we've got 2 Kodos, we've got a Cairn, Bloodhoof, which we can again double up and do damage with. Now, Sylvanas Windrunner has been chosen for the Death Rattle Summoner minion. I'm actually going to go for a... I've totally forgotten the name of the card. That is not great. It is the one what copies things. Oh, come on, guys. Come and help me out. I think it's 5 mana. Faceless Manipulator, that's what I was looking for. So instead of taking a Sylvanas, and again I need to actually still craft Sylvanas, guilty secret. Welcome Tiv, welcome Mr. Bellatrix, Kid Kerrigan, Zano, and all of you folks. Big hello to all of you guys who are live. It's great to have you with us. We are just going to be diving in, as you've seen, to a bit of Paladin, taking a look, having an experiment, and working out for ourselves in our own little world the answer to the question, hey, Echoing Ooze, Paladin, how do Naxxramas cards drop in this situation? Are they good or not? Do they make a cool Paladin deck? Are we going to play it absolutely uselessly? The answer is probably yes. Let's find out. So, if we just take a quick look at Sylvanas, and very often everyone has this dilemma, unless you've got all the cards. I can't spell Sylvanas. Let's call it Windrunner. Wind. What's it doing? Oh, hang on. That's why. Sylv. Oh, Sylv Friday. And my ability to type is just disappearing. Got it. So Sylvanas, Death Rattle, take control of a random enemy minion. So for a 6/5/5, it's a really solid, she is a really solid minion to have on the table. And then when she passes away, she just throws out that random tempo changing factor. Now by that I mean that if you rob a big minion, you're causing your opponent trouble. If you rob a little minion, then you're still probably causing them some kind of irritant. So depending on when you play this and what the state of your opponent's minions are at the time, it can do some really, really nasty stuff. So Sylvanas can change the tempo of a game when she goes down, and she can also fit into a lot of decks. So she's one of those legendaries that's, obviously if you're crafting your first, second, third legendary, she's worth considering. If you're really going towards a certain deck, I wouldn't encourage you to craft Sylvanas. There are things like Ragnaros, for example, that can just fit into a lot of decks. But Sylvanas is certainly up there as probably one of the top 3 or 4. If you're crafting your first legendaries, after you've got the legendary you really want for that first deck you're trying to build, then you should consider Sylvanas as one of your other choices. And that's why she drops in here. If we're mid-range, you can see that it's sort of 5-6 mana. Throwing down Sylvanas at that kind of mid-range point will help swing the tide, hopefully, in our favour. So in terms of replacing Sylvanas, I've gone, it's not quite the same in terms of stealing one of your opponent's minions, but I've gone for a Faceless Manipulator. Now, as a rare, Faceless Manipulator, whether you copy your opponent's minion in the late game, whether you copy one of your own big minions to reinforce your advantage, it doesn't quite shift the tempo or steal something from your opponent in the same way as Sylvanas does, but it does give you a very good chance, depending on what your situation is, to sort of increase your advantage or negate an advantage of your opponent. So you could copy an opponent's tank. If it's in the late game, you could copy an opponent's Ragnaros or something similar. So pretty awkward from that perspective. Okay, so how are we going to play this deck? Well, there are other great decks that we're taking a look at, other great players, so I will not say that I'm the expert, but you can always take a look at the deck and what we're going to do. So the mana curve, you can see, well, there's really nothing in the early game, but we're trying to keep control in that early to mid game, lots of 2, 3 and 4 mana cards. And then hopefully in the late game, we've taken control of the table, and then we can be using Ragnaros as our finisher. But really this sort of, look at that 2 to 5 mana area. We want to be getting down lots of big minions. We want to be dropping the minions, keeping our opponent under control with things like Equality and Consecrate, getting solid minions on the table ourselves and chipping away with damage. Haunted Creeper will do that for us. The All-Door Peacekeeper, changing enemy minions attack to 1, plus Stampeding Kodo, destroy a random enemy minion with 2 or less attack. You've got lots of little combos in this deck, so Equality and Consecrate. Things like All-Door Peacekeeper and Stampeding Kodo. You can then start mirroring up minions. Cairn will really help us in that mid-game, swing the tide in our favour. Guardian of Kings will help us heal up. And then we have things such as Haunted Creepers. We've got the buffs that we can be charging in with. And you may notice that this deck does not actually go, interestingly, for Blessing of Might. And again, if you were going more aggro in the early game, you might consider dropping in a couple of Blessing of Mights to be buffing up your oozes with, or other things. But because you can see the focus of this mana curve is more mid-game, we're not really going to throw stuff in there phase 2 too early. We're not really trying to full-on rush them. So this is absolutely mid-range next. We'll go for a rename. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly, do forgive me, do a little bit of ninja photo shopping. And then we'll stick that deck list in the left-hand column so you can have a look at it, see how we're playing it. And if we have time, we'll actually try and create ourselves an aggro version of this as well, a more early game version, so you folks can see how the playstyles, how the core Paladin concepts stay the same, but how the playstyles between mid-range and aggro differ somewhat, what you're trying to focus on doing as well. The Nax cards can help either, so Nax, mid-range. It's Reynad, of course, Paladin, that we are crediting for this deck, for the list is his. I'm just going to grab that deck list and jump on in to some ladder games. As always, we have been playing slow. What has been going on this August? Well, we had the pleasure of being on the BBC, which is a bunch of fun. We got ourselves a dog, me and my wiser half, so we have FailCraft Doge. I'll try and grab a picture at some point. We'll get an approved picture of him to share with you. Then we also went to Gamescom over in Germany as part of the day job, which was amazing. So there we go, we've got our mid-range Naxxramas. But all of those things have led to us not legending again. We will. I'm almost tempted to take a few holiday days to legend, but I'd need to go and work that out and see if it can be done. So let us jump on in. So how are we going to be playing? Well, we're going to be just jumping into the ladder. We're at what, rank 11, 10? Not setting the world on fire, but we've got our card back. Not been grinding away, so let's grab that mid-range next deck. You can see it in the right column. How is it going to play? We kind of looked at the mana curve and got a couple of clues. You can see that with some of those cards, we are not all about throwing things into our opponent and rushing them down really quick. We want to make sure we've got control of the board in the early game, and you can see we've got lots of nice combos that will allow us to do that. But really, the mid-game is where we want to be getting a lot of solid, nasty minions down on the table, hopefully keeping our opponent under control and then swinging on in so that we've got a nice table set up for Ragnaros as our finisher. And remember that Ragnaros in a Reynad's version is actually using Tyrion Fordring to be the finisher. So what do we want in an early game hand? Well, that's not awful. We are playing a shaman. Keeping hold of equality is good. Do you know, I'm actually, because we're learning this deck, I'm going to keep this hand. Equality will let us, hopefully, if we keep that and grab a consecrate, that will let us do some area clearance. An Echoing Ooze, well, we all love a bit of ooze. So having him in our lives is not a bad thing either. I'm actually just going to tap on the table. There's no point coining into an ooze. I would prefer to play the ooze when I have a buff to drop on it, but that doesn't mean that I have to. So healing totem just goes down, fairly standard shamanistic opening. Now what could the shaman be playing? There are mid-range shamans, tempo shamans. He's not murlocking or anything by the looks of things, so we don't have to worry too much about a rush. Now what can I do? Well, I can tempo it in. Really, there's nothing wrong with me just slapping a Silver Hand Recruit on the table. I could have coined into a Harvest Golem and started chipping away. That would have been accelerating, but remember we're playing mid-range. The more advantage you can get in the early game, the better. There you go. He's Harvest Golem, so we can also do that. dev now. I can actually just shade of Naxxramas. That forces him possibly to play a Lightning Storm or something similar. I'm just going to be tipping one in and charging in there. So if he's got a Lightning Storm or another sort of untargeted damage spell, he'll probably go for it. Other options, I could have just thrown down the Golem. So I am kind of baiting out a Lightning Storm or some control. He's just gone for straight up control. Now you can see why keeping Equality here is good, because if I can draw into a Consecrate, then that's going to cause some trouble. But while he can't draw into that, then I can cause some trouble too. So I would prefer to go for the Global Clear, but I know that he may have a Lightning Storm. So throwing down Shades or anything else may just bait out a Lightning Storm or something that will just wipe my area of the table and leave him ahead. So we've got to have a look. I don't really want to be baiting out him clearing the entire side of the board, so I'm just mindful of how I can go for control. Equality, if I draw into a Consecrate, that will just let me clear everything up. So I can play with that in mind. I would prefer to remove some of these beforehand if possible. I think that in terms of a mid-range, I've got two options. I can either throw down the Harvest Golem and keep plodding away. I could throw down this Ooze and double it up, but that could be a finisher. I'm actually just going to go for a True Silver Champion, and I'm going to start taking a bit of damage and removing these. Now I could crack this out for some removal, but that unveils him, so I'm going to leave him down there as a sort of veiled threat that the Shaman is going to have to think of. So we can see that, that he's just really reinforcing the board. And interestingly, have you seen there that he's double overloaded himself, and yet he's only just gone for a sort of mini little attack there with what he had. So we're not in trouble just yet. However, you can see that this board is rapidly getting away from us. So I'm really, really, really looking for a Consecrate. That will even the state of play. So I can do two things. I can start chipping away at these minions still, trying to even up the score, or I can be hoping against hope.
Reporting for justice.
I draw a Consecrate. So I'm just going to try and get my board position in a better state, remove some of these minions, hoping for the Consecrate, but if it doesn't come, I still need to make sure I've got enough board control to get this sorted. So remember that I do have the Guardian that will heal me up in the late game. But you can see he's got a really nasty set board now. If he bloodlusts, that is a very almost GG situation. So I can't really save this Shade of Naxxramas for much longer. It's going to have to come out and start sorting things out because he's drawn the card. Maybe I should have traded this earlier. Okay, so I can Echoing Ooze into a Blessing of Kings, but that's not really going to do huge amounts for us at this point in time. I can also mirror my Echoing Ooze with a Faceless Manipulator, but this is not going to help me get through these. So an Equality would be good. It will let me start chipping away at some of these minions on the table. I think I may well have to go for that because I'm just at too much of a risk of a Bloodlust right now. So we will start chipping away at some of these and see what we can manage. Now, Echoing Ooze is not going to give us tanks. Now you can see that I have no tanking options, and if I leave this too many more turns, he could just Bloodlust and wipe me out. So I need to try and equal up the board as much as I can. I'm going to Equality. That means that I'm just going to be able to remove some of these and say, look, hey guy, I'm probably going to be removing some more of these pretty soon. Echoing Ooze will then give me the additional minions I need to remove some of these after I've got rid of the tanks. That's going to be my next. This was a ridiculous play. I should have attacked those two first. It's a nice piece of FailCraft failure there, because I've then just completely wasted the Shade of Naxxramas. Oh, you can tell the scenes there. Okay, that's how not to do it. Well, if I'd played first, it would have teed me up, but by equalitying at some point, I would have lost that health anyway. Okay, so we can see Doomhammer is just going to let him clear two of these off the table. He's now just going for straight trades. Interesting. But he can still, of course, then he still managed to keep enough minions on the deck, as it were, to do a Bloodlust at some point. So I'm still Bloodlust vulnerable. And he's still getting the card draw. So we are behind at this point. Right, not so great. I can... getting more brawl presence would have been a good plan, but I'm just going to say, hey guy, let's coin into a Ragnaros and try and force him to remove it. But if he can Bloodlust, then he may not have to worry about it. He's not going to probably Wind Fury for 4 damage unless he can buff himself, for example, because then he'll be taking 16 from me. That's a really, really big... yeah, you don't want to be forgetting equality like that. Of course, equality followed by consecrate, I would have still had something down. Yep, baited out Hex. And some free of charge removal. At least this isn't going on to my hero, but I am vulnerable to Bloodlust. I'm waiting a Bloodlust that never arrives, but of course he's had this Mana Tide Totem on the table for 3 turns now. So no Consecrate, no Wild Pyromancer, because I don't have one in the deck. All painful. So I can tank myself up a little bit here, but the Defender of Argus would be a lot better if I have some more solid options on the table. I'm going to just try and fill up the deck, but I'm expecting a Bloodlust. That could be our loss straight up. If he's not drawn a Bloodlust, he is just sitting there waiting for one, because that wins him the match. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. It is +3 if I remember correctly, and then 3 as well, so Wind Furied, 18, 21 damage. If he's not packing Bloodlust, then I may just rough this out. Rockbiter, come on, there's got to be a Bloodlust. Got to be, no, Archer Commander. Okay, he's going for the face with everything he has. He does have lethal.
Well played.
Yep, great. So I let the table get way too away from me there. Things I should have probably done in that game. Throwing down the Echoing Ooze a bit earlier, it would have given me some more minions for trade. So I was hanging on with that Shade on Naxxramas for too long, when really I just let the table get away from me. So next game, let's see what we can do there. We have learnt a bit and played a bit, and now we can get into another.
Uther versus Gul'dan.
Your soul shall be mine. I will fight.
Okay, so we've got a Warlock this time. We don't know if he's Zooing or similar. Second. So I think that we really need to just trade all of this up. You can see that's all pretty much late game. If it is a Zoo, we need to be preparing ourselves for a bit more early game. Okay, well, it's no turn 1 play. Could be very unlucky. I'm wondering. I'm saying I wonder. Do you know what? If he is Zooing, then this is the best play. Nothing turn 1 from a Zoo is pretty unusual. If he's going to be hand locking, well, then he won't play anything this turn either. So coining into this, risky. However, I've got the Equality and Consecrate combo. Haunted Creeper may well suggest that he's actually Zooing after all. So I'm quite cool with that. Equality, no point in doing that. That will remove everything. At least I managed to get some
Reporting for duty.
now I can tip this down and see if he wants to go for the trade. I'm going to encourage a trade off in here. That would have fallen 2. However, he might go for the trade. He might go for my face. But really, this turn 3 should hopefully give us a little bit of a tell as to what he's going to be up to. Okay, trade very much taken. We see this Nerubian Egg go down. This could still be a Zoo. It is a look in... you know, in terms of like that Nerubian Egg, sorry for my slight lack of thought there. It could still be a Zoo. I don't want to be attacking that. It could be Argusing it up or something. So for that reason, I'm just going to drop a Shade. I can Argus and start throwing some taunts down. I can True Silver, which will give me room to remove anything nasty that he drops on the table this turn. Draw a Dark-Iron Dwarf, perfect, because that means that he can remove minions but not quite remove everything, so it does take him back down to a 0, of course. I'm going to start playing some control plays. I'm going to take the 4 to the face. I've got the Guardian of Kings getting me back up. I would like ideally another minion down than Argus and get some nice taunts up.
Put this apple on your head.
The light protects me.
Get in there and fight, maggot!
Okay, so we have taken a wee bit of chip damage from the Knife Juggler, so we can see this is now looking at Zooey. So I can equality and consecrate any time I so choose. However, removing that Nerubian egg would of course mean that I will get the 4/4. So if I want to clear the board, I've got the combo to do so. I need to charge in, remove the bubble. Ideally, I need to trigger the Nerubian egg. So I think this is probably the best option. Okay, may feel like a bit of a waste of damage. I'll get the Shade effects out. I do get, of course, the chip damage, which is also nasty, but then the equality. Oh, for God's sorry, pardon my language. I forgot I needed one more mana. We're not having the best run of it today. I do apologise. It's been a long week. Okay, I'm really pulling off the combos today. Well, I hope you can see the combos even if I'm not actually making the plays. He's taken off the Shade, and of course he has then managed to buff everything up, so that makes my Consecrate a little bit, well, not entirely useless. I can still clear the table, but it means I take the damage from the Nerubian, which I didn't want to. Right, Consecrate. That is an example of a misplay that's cost us a lot of damage to the face, so we can do a bit of a reset.
Must cleanse the Sunwell.
I could see the combo in my head and I thought 2 + 4 equals 5. And really 2 + 4 is 6. So we've just kind of got a basic arithmetic failure today. Okay, so he's managed to get his second wave of stuff out, which is never great. Stampede and Coda will help us remove one random enemy minion. But it's not going to get us all down. I would quite like a couple of tanks. I think that if we change a minion's attack to
Follow the rule.
Argus as well. I need some tanks. I can then Guardian of Kings next turn if I can survive through it. So what can I trade away? Well, I think that there's probably a good point in removing the big threat. Got an old Peacekeeper there that unless he's got a Soulfire or something will certainly take a couple of minions to trade away. So I've slowed him down a turn. It's not going to be loads. Void Walker means that I have to go through tanks before I remove his nasty minions. And then a life tap, I'm sure he can play cards. This is a good deck, I'm just not making it look so. Right, okay, I've got another equality that can certainly help me trade some stuff. Now, do I go for a removal first, second? I think a Guardian of Kings, or I can Kodo an equality, or I can Guardian of Kings. Well, let's go for a Kodo, see what happens first there. Because all of those have got 2 or less. If the random is the Void Walker, that's excellent. No, sad, but then I can equality again.
Into the breach.
Let's get that off the deck. For the trade. Well played. The Doomguard. Ooh, 11. There you go. There's the sort of zoom into horrible finisher. Okay, more games. We have 2 big mistakes. And you can see how those have made the difference when it's come to some of these more aggressive decks. The Shaman one was a bit more mid to late game, and we were just sort of didn't go for the minions when we should have done. We should have gone for a bit more mid game control. And then in this one, well, I think there is a big fail in terms of doing the combo or attempting to go for the combo 1 turn too early. So although we would have taken some damage anyway, we would have Being able to do a bit more on that particular turn. Okay, maybe we've got a Miracle Rogue here. That might be quite
I
interesting.
will fight with honor.
First turn, okay, if it is Miracle, and I'm assuming it's a Miracle, I'm going to try and go for more added pressure and control. So I'm going to mulligan everything but I might use. Wanted Creeper, yeah, cool with that. Certainly going to let us get some pressure on the deck. It means we can tip away at any little things he might drop. The Blessing of Kings is good for our reasons as well. So I'm going to get my Haunted Creepers out ASAP. We have seen a weapon to our face, nothing particularly unusual about that. As we said before, let's continue with Operation Creeper. Operation Creeper Charge. Now, if it's a Miracle, we'll see him play nothing first couple of turns. He'll be looking to stockpile lots of cheap spell cards to go into the other side auction. Could be tempo, or it could be a delaying tactic. Oh, I almost got him, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Now the Ooze, an Ooze and a Blessing of Kings would really mess it up, so I'm going to actually ignore that for the time being. I've now got enough damage on the table to remove it in one turn if I need. And of course, he'll be removing various things from me as well. So the chip damage and the sort of a... Yeah, the chip damage will sort of make the rogue think twice about using weapons later in the game. This is looking like a tempo rogue. You very rarely see Ascension, but it could be a bridging card still into a Miracle. So let's not count our chickens before they have hatched. I think a nice thing to do here. This is a good time to attack to the face. As Kerrigan is singing chat with a weapon. Do I want to split my creepers into more creepers? I don't particularly mind that too much.
The battle!
There we go, we rapidly have a board filling up with lots of awkward things. Okie dokie. Some pensing and contemplating. Either way, he was confident enough to take out, or she was confident enough to take out Silverhand Recruit, but has then just gone for an Azure Drake. So again, that is a great bridging card. Gives you the spell damage, works well with Rogue and some abilities there. Gives you the card draw and has a solid body for some trading. I don't have an equality. Annoying. Consecrate is not going to be wiping the board clean. I can certainly take a bit of damage, but remember, if we are playing a Miracle, then that's not great either, because it could randomly come out and cause trouble. Now, interesting combos. Nax, I don't really want down just yet, but the Kodo, that will help me get the trade out of the way and help me tip tapping. So, do I want to be stuck with 20 health? Not really, but to get the threat of the table and keep more control. So I've now got that Koda with 3-5 as well. So unless the Miracle comes off now, if it is Miracle, then this Tempo Rogue is behind. They'd be needing to drop Sylvanas or something to steal cards to get the tempo back.
too soon. Yeah, beat it.
I wonder.
Hey folks, sorry about that. Just had to quickly sort a few bits out. So in the meantime, we've doubled up and we've seen that our opponent has decided to clear the board and has Dagger Mastery gone for the face. So I think he's still trying to perhaps to set up a finisher of some description. We're not going to let him do that, of course. I think that Blessing of Argus is the best way. Blessing of Argus, Defender of Argus. Ooh, Blessing of Kings. That wouldn't have quite given me a lethal. Shade of Naxxramas. Well, it's going to be hard for him to recover from this one. It looks as though he's playing tempo.
Well played. I give up.
Here we go. Lovely stuff. So we've grabbed ourselves a little win. So let's play another one. Let's continue. We've lost 2, we've won 1. Let's see if we can maybe roll into rank 10 and see if we can get under the hood of this deck a bit. So Miracle, whether that was Miracle or whether that was a sort of tempo rogue, I'm not entirely sure. It did seem to look like tempo. So for that reason, our mid-range paladin with a bit more early game bite is actually very, very strong against that kind of deck. Unless their tempo and control comes off perfectly, then we're going to have enough on the table to have an advantage. Like you saw there, we never really felt as though we were running out of minions. Going second, the coin did help. Hunter, interesting. So let's see if it's a rush or similar. Whatever it is, I would like some more early game options. So that's a 4 mulligan. And Inequality and Harvest Golem, even though we're going first, at least we've got something a little bit more early games. Okay, well, Web Spinner, great Hunter drop from Naxxramas. That random beast, of course, do remember that could be any beast in the game that is not a token summoned by another beast. So you, for example, Simba, the Deathmane Hyena or whatever it's called, that summons two hyenas when it dies. You could not get a hyena from a Web Spinner, but you could absolutely get a Corehound or the beast or something big and nasty like that. King Crush, for example. Hunters seem to have a habit of grabbing a crush against me with the Web Spinner. So you can get any card that's a beast in the game, whether you own it or not, that's not a token. Okay, well, I'm not going to sacrifice that just yet. Do I want to go for the control? Yeah, I'm going to go for the control. Of course, I've just given him a beast and I have no idea what that is. We'll see whether that's good or not later in the game.
I'll show them.
What is
I'll show them all.
Oh, Mad Scientist hits the deck. So for hunters, you've seen a lot more mad scientists coming out. I think we chatted about it in a sort of scientific hunter, a little bit of coverage the other day. So that will give him a random secret. Now, any secret is bound to be a pain for me. So do I actually even want to kill this right now or not? There's a good argument for saying no. So I'm actually going to experiment and see what happens if I don't remove that hunter and I instead attack him for the face. Keep the table pressure on. Because let's think, it could be a freezing trap that could get one of my minions back to the hand and more expensive. It could be an explosive trap which would wipe everything from the table. But the Eagle Horn Bow will go very nicely with the secret that he puts out. He's going for the control of the table. He's trading everything off the table. Okay, so I know that at least my Shade of Naxxramas is going to survive. And next turn I can Blessing of Kings and Echoing Ooze to get that lovely combo we saw before, which gave me a nice big, strong table presence. So I don't really want my oozes to be perishing to an explosive trap, so I can do one of two things. I can try and really trigger this trap now by clearing the table, or I can just leave it, control the beast, stay set, and really get my table so strong that he's not really going to have an option. If I was going to try and play into an explosive trap or a freezing trap generated by this scientist, you can overthink this a bit, but I'd have to tee both of these off the table, attack the hero when the thing came out and see what it was, and I still have option. Okay, let's go for that and see how it goes. So firstly, I'm going to do the 2 damage to face, because I don't, just in case I've already done a misplay, because I've summoned the secret without being able to trigger it. Okay, I can trigger it with my hero, which is not ideal. There's the explosive trap. I've actually still got the Shade of Naxxramas stealth on the table, which is fine. Okay, so maybe a slight play would have failed there, but I can still Blessing of King Ooze next turn. Coining in, so he's gone for a Naxxramas. Destroy any minion damage by this minion. I'd like to get rid of Naxxramas ASAP, I can do that next turn. This is where the Shade of Naxxramas sitting there dwelling is excellent, because if I remove him, I can just get my big ooze on the table, 2/5/2s, and unless he has an explosive shot, a multi-shot or something, which he may well do actually, I'm going to have a little bit of a risky time there. Okay, I'm going to go for a hard control on my X-Nut, and then let's see, you know, the 2 arguments about Ooze are these exactly. It is, you know, do you remember, of course, that's 5/6, lovely. But do I want to get rid of my X-Nut so she can't do anything against those or attack the face? I'm actually going to go for the control on my X-Nut. If my X-Nut was grabbed from one of those web spinners, then that's a lovely control. So we've got 2 5/6s. That's going to be quite hard. Okay, so if I had an Argus, that would make it even better. Deadly Shot removes 1. I've no doubt that in his hand, or her hand, they will have enough stuff to remove this other. So making it a 5/6 rather than a 5/2 is good. We've got another secret. Now if that's an ice, a freezing trap, not an ice trap, a freezing trap, then that's going to be really awkward on that ooze. So
My shield for Argus.
I've tanked up. Remember, I lose all the stats if it is a freezing trap.
Job's done.
And it's an explosive, so that removes one of my tanks, but at least I have a 6/5 still on the deck. And still, of course, then do the damage at least. So he's in a position where he can't be using his Eagle Horn Bow too easily. Lower Theb, okay, well, I may have laid on hands there, look, so that Lower Theb, a very nice drop, because it slows me for a go, gives me a big minion, but orange loss. So I'm actually just going to go for the win. Heads I win, tails I remove the minion. So really, I win either way. Tails I remove the minion. That's good. Looks as though. Science be praised. Praise the science there. Kill command, lovely stuff. Look, comes down and gives you bananas. Station damages me, so he's not out of this just yet. Oh yes he is. can draw into a true silver.
For justice.
And there's our win. So there we go, some mid-range control edge against a hunter that was probably a bit more mid-range. Definitely want to rush. Got that. Let's see if we can get back to rank 10 for this. So, 2 losses down, 2 wins up. So this is, you know, rank 10, 11 at this stage. You're still seeing a mix of stuff. Once you get above rank 10, 10 to 5, you'll start seeing maybe a bit more of a narrowing in terms of the decks, I reckon. We're still seeing aggro, we're still seeing mid-range, so it's interesting seeing how our mid-range effort tees up against those. Worthy opponent.
Uther versus Rome. For Doomhammer. I will fight with honor.
Just doing a little tweet out. See if anyone else fancies coming to join the party. It's lunch break at work, and then off I shall have to go in a little while's time. So thank you for tuning in. It's great to see you with us.
Job's done. How was your ARAM? Oh, Australia, of course. Oh, that makes perfect sense. Righty then, we have a shaman again. We were thwarted by shaman initially. What kind of shaman will this be? I mulliganed because I wanted to add some early game options. I can't even remember if I mulliganed. Greetings, friend.
Ah, greetings, friend. Well, greetings to you too.
Well met.
Well met. Okay, well, both of us is not fabulous, but turn 3 I can Golem, turn 4 I can Argus if I really want, or True Silver, turn 5 I can Kodo, which is fabulous against Shamans who love throwing their totems down. So, although I didn't have anything for a real early drop, I'm not dismayed, I'm not devastated by this stuff. I think we can do something with this. Okie dokie. Consecrate, well, we can remove that tank, but we don't need to. Argus, I would miss out on tanking 1 minion. Do I want to do that? Probably not. Can I remove this? Yes. Do I want to hold all Peacekeeper at this stage? No. So the True Silver will be good, but it's kind of wasting a bit of its ability. So for that reason, I'm actually just going to waste 2 mana, strangely. Because at least if I all got Argus on those 2, or I True Silver champion next go, okay, it's not ideal. I can Kodo to remove something as well. But no mission Venter. I'm happy to remove that with a Kodo actually on this go, so that's fine. I don't need to be tanking up. So Kodo just removes that. This Shaman has got a huge hand, so you do see some Miracle Shaman. If we get a Gnomish a Gadgetzan Auctioneer, there is a Miracle Shaman that you throw down their Auctioneer and play lots of cheap Shaman spells as well, of course. Earthshot, obvious play there. Removes 1 damage. Lightning Storm, I think I saw. Oh, there we go. Table removed. He's of course, remember, overloaded by 2, meaning that I can still make some plays. Oh, Argus of Argus, Argusing the Argus. I'm going to play an Argus on your Argus. So, that's Argus. Oh, misplay. I should have, of course, dropped my Silver Hand recruit beforehand.
Sorry that happened.
So many rush plays, it's clearly because I've had no lunch. I need brain food to keep us going. Hockey's, well, another totem. He's had to do that because he's overloaded. What can we get? Well, Shade can go down. We could Argus or Argus again.
Naxxramas.
No, I don't want to be tanking that up. Does it mean that you can attack it if I give it tank? I'm not going to go for the scientific
My
experiment.
seal for Argus.
I would imagine no, but who knows
Into the
actually.
breach.
Oh, okay.
battle.
Let's get play order right. Let's make sure I do maximum damage to the face of the shaman. Of course, at high rank level, I would not get away with this murder that I'm doing right now. Nice. In comes the Fire Elemental. Lovely basic card for all you Shaman wannabes out there, or Shaman players. 3 damage. You can see that just very nicely remove my coda. And it gives me a big threat that I need to contemplate over. So I could nick one of my own and start charging things in. That could be quite fun. Do I want to lose all of my tanks? Probably not. Have I taken any damage? No. So for those reasons, I think a true silver let's compound my table advantage with lots of minions. Lots of minions, and then how do I want to destroy this? I'm happy to take 6 to the face.
To the breach.
KO it with my lowest attacking minion. I'm actually just going to hold on to that shade. So he's buffing and buffing and buffing and buffing every turn, and then he will help. Stealth overrides the taunt. I've learned something today. You guys teaching me. Big thanks to Zano. Number 1, the Michaelis fan EU. Sea Giant, 1 less for other minion. Makes good sense. Coining in for a 4-drop. I can expect a Defender of Argus, maybe. Yeah, he's tanking up. And we have a 9/9 drop. So he's by no means out of this game. Now, if I still had a Kodo, but the first thing I can do is All Peacekeeper. Lovely. Look how All Peacekeeper can just make that a non-threat. It means that I can... Oh, now I had an even sweeter combo. If I dropped a Faceless, I could have copied it as a 9/9 tank, and then I could have Old Peacekeeper did it after. So there you go, guys. You should have done that. Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, fail combo. So I'm going to keep that Faceless in hand for the time being. But we may as well
For justice.
swing for the win and make sure that we chip this down as much as we
To the
can.
breach.
Okay, well, 1 spider down. I'll get another 2 spiders.
To battle. Reporting for duty. To battle. I must move quickly.
Looking for consecrators 2, 3. Quick maths. I can win.
Minion.
Quick maths. Fast maths. Oh! I don't. Maybe I didn't have a win. My maths failed me. I've lost the mathematical test. So there you go. Big winner! Oh, 1,000 games. Look at that. 300 gold. Hey, look at that. 1,000 games. Still no legend. Through not playing those 1,000 games in a concentrated season. I'm pretty sure 1,000 games to get anyone legend. Okay, so we got to rank 10. So we will see what you guys fancy. Okay, so we're just going to have little votes. For those of you live in the chat, would you like to see an aggro version of this deck? Or should we play some Heroes of the Storm, a quick Heroes of the Storm? Entirely up to you. So, while we ponders, I hope you can see we lost 2, and then we won 3. And that gave it a few different decks. We had Hunters, we had a couple of Shamans, we had Warlock, and we saw how some of those combos in the deck work. We saw how myself, we saw how some of the combos work, and we saw how we can reach out and do some nasty damage with it as well. How if we can get the right combos down, keep things under control, then we can do some nice stuff. So what I'm going to do is just wrap up this for now. If you're live, then go away because we're going to be doing something after. If you are on YouTube watching this, then thank you so much for tuning in. It was a little longer than a usual episode, but not a Hearthstone half hour at all. But that was a nice little bit of deck introduction guides and a bit of experimentation. We saw how you can make big misplays and lose and where some of those key decisions come in, but then we saw how when everything rolls out and we have a little bit of fortune, but also make some better plays and better decisions, we can win as well. So if you're on YouTube, come join us, twitch.tv/FailCraft Casts. We try and stream Monday through Friday every evening, but also lunchtime
times UK, which is, as we have learned, is evenings in Australia and mornings in the USA. So hopefully you can catch us live at some point or another if you're watching on YouTube around the world. If you're doing anything else, come check out youtube.com/FailCraft Casts. We've got a whole bunch of Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, a little bit of other games there as well for fun. So hopefully see you soon somewhere. We will always tweet on @FailCraft Casts on Twitter as much as we can when we're going to go live or not.